Hi guys, and welcome to my October reading wrap up. I hope you all had a great month for reading October. I know that a lot of people were trying to read Halloween themed reads, myself included, so I hope everyone read something fantastic. I didn't make an actual TBR video because I never make TBR videos, purely because I never know what I'm going to read one book to the next. I'm forever changing my mind. So I didn't really want to list a load of books that in the end I probably wouldn't have read. I had sort of an unofficial TBR in my head of books that I wanted to maybe choose from, and I succeeded in reading a couple of those. So let's get started. The first book that I read in October was Down London Road by Samantha Young. This is the second book in her On Dublin Street series, and I sort of started this series out of sync. But I'm sort of going back and reading the books that I missed, and I'm really glad that I am, because I'm really loving them. When I first started the series, I was like, I'm not sure. They're okay, I'm not loving it. But now, since I've been going back to books, it's made me love the series as a whole even more. They're fantastic sort of adult contemporary romances. There is some sexy times in these, just to warn anybody. But oh my god, if you love your sort of contemporary romances, definitely pick up the series. I'm absolutely just in love with it now. I'm loving it even more than what I was before. And I love a standalone by Samantha Young called Hero. Still my favourite book by her, but I'm loving this series too. Then the first book that I read that was sort of from my Halloween themed selection that I wanted to actually read was The Girl in 6E by A.R. Torre. I've had this on my shelf for a really long time, but have never picked it up, and I thought October was a great opportunity to do so, and I can't believe I haven't picked it up before now. I absolutely loved this. It was a really quick, fast-paced read that had me hooked from pretty much the first page. Deanna, who's really known as Jessica Riley, is sort of a cam worker. She doesn't leave her apartment. She literally stays in her apartment because she has the urge to kill people. So she's trying to protect people, and she basically just doesn't leave. She has everything delivered to her house. She performs on her cam like nearly all day, and that's her life. She doesn't leave until she has a particularly creepy client that really sets her on edge. And she thinks he's dangerous, and then a young girl goes missing, and the police don't really take her seriously when she tries to contact them with information, so it forces her to leave the apartment with some seriously gruesome but amazing consequences. I just absolutely love this. I love that you're in the mind of Deanna. I love that even though she admits that she has these sort of urges, that she fantasizes about killing people nearly all of the time. It's such a real urge to her that's why she locks herself away. And to get into the sort of the mind of that, and yet you still are sympathetic towards her as a character, you still like her. It's a really interesting read, guys, and I highly recommend checking it out if you haven't already. And I gave it 4.5 out of 5 stars. Just was hooked on this. If you watch my vlog, my one and only vlog from October, I was reading this on the coach to and from London, and I loved it. Then I read a book on my Kindle. Come on, I'll show you on my iPad. I read Castle Hill by Samantha Young. This is sort of book 2.5 in the On Dublin Street series. It's a novella, and it deals with the first couple from the series, Joss and Braden, and it's sort of catching up with them, seeing where they're at and what happens with them. Really like it. I really love Joss and Braden. I really love their book, so it was really great to see those characters again. You do still see them, they still pop up because it's about basically like a group of friends and everything, but it was nice to just see them for an extended period of time. Really enjoyed that. The next book that I read was another Halloween themed read. I know you're amazed at me. I am as well. I read Possess by Gretchen McNeil. I have had this book on my shelf for, I don't know, 4 years or something. Really long time. I've not read any other books by Gretchen McNeil, and I thought, obviously, with a story about possession, this would be a great read for October. I really enjoyed this. There were at points it almost sort of reminded me of Anna Dressed in Blood, like quite early on at the beginning, even though Anna Dressed in Blood is sort of about ghosts and this deals more with demons and possession. The way it was sort of set up and about the backstory of the character really reminded me of Anna Dressed in Blood. But it is a different story. Bridget Lou is basically learning to be an exorcist. Her father was murdered the year before, and she's sort of, the church have taken her under their wing and they're teaching her about possession because she has a gift, but something is not quite right. This, as a YA novel, is a fantastic read for October. There are some scenes that aren't necessarily gruesome but are really quite creepy and sinister, and they really sort of set the mood for October. There's one scene in here where there's sort of a demonic possession in a creepy doll shop, and that was a sort of a highlight of this book for me. As I was reading it, I was enjoying it, but I couldn't pinpoint sort of anything to really love about it. It was just a good read, but there was never any point like, oh my god, I'm loving this. It never really hooked me in, sort of thing. But I loved Bridget Lou's character. She was really quite sassy, and I just really liked her. And I was torn with the rating, but I think I end up sort of 3 out of 5 stars for this one. I really enjoyed it. I love the cover to this one. The cover is what originally sort of drew my eye to this story back when I picked it up like 3 years ago. Really like it, and it is a fantastic read for October. And I would consider reading more Gretchen McNeil, considering that was her sort of debut novel. I would definitely consider reading more by her. The next book that I read was on my Kindle, and after reading sort of some Halloween themed read, I was like, I want something light and fluffy again now. So I picked up a book that I had via NetGalley, and that's Bella and the Beast by Olivia Drake. And when I went into this, I didn't know it was part of a series, but I think it's like book 3 or 4 in the Cinderella Sisterhood novels. So I would consider going back and picking those up, but it can be read as a standalone. And I read this in literally one day, and I stayed up quite late over the weekend to read this. I must have been awake till about 2 in the morning just so I could finish it. Really enjoyed it. I think this is sort of a fairy tale retelling series but set in the Regency period, which I love the idea of that, because the Oxenberg Princes by Karen Hawkins is the same thing. It's fairy tales retold in the Regency period, which I absolutely love. So if there's another series like that out there, I need to get on that. But I think this is, obviously by the title, a Beauty and the Beast retelling set in the Regency period. Really enjoyed it. It wasn't the best Regency novel I've ever read, but it was really fun, and I obviously liked something about it because I couldn't put it down and I wanted to finish it all in one day. So I gave it 3.5 out of 5. I also really like the sort of Egyptology aspect of it, because that's something that I am also interested in, is Egyptology. So to have the sort of 2-3 things combined that I love, sort of fairy tale retellings, Regency and Egyptology, was really nice, and I think that's what sort of made me love it even more. But I would definitely consider reading more by this author and going back and reading the other books in the series. So the next book that I read was again something light and fluffy, and I don't think you'll have seen this in a haul yet, but I couldn't wait to read it, and that's A Double-Edged Blade by Julie Moffat. And this is a really old school cheesy romance novel, as you can see there. And I've sort of been hunting down a copy of this for a while now, because I must have taken this out at the library about 7 years ago, like a really long time ago, and the story just kind of stuck with me, and I wanted to own a copy despite the really old cringy kind of looking cover. But I'm really glad that I found a copy of this and reread it, because as I was rereading it, I remembered a lot of the story anyway, so that's an indication of how much I loved it. You know, 7 years have passed and I still remember this story. But it is really like a cheesier, romancy version of Outlander, which, as we all know, I am obsessed with Outlander, and it's literally like this. It's about a young woman called Faith. She's sort of an MI5 agent, and she's tracking down an IRA terrorist. And while she's doing that, the pair of them stumble back 350 years in the past, and they get separated. And Faith is found by this guy called Miles, and he thinks that she's a spy. So he basically keeps her as a prisoner, and it just goes from there. And it's, oh my god, it's so cheesy. It's very romance fiction. But just something about this, I absolutely love it, and I'm so glad that I own a copy now. The next book that I read was my last Halloween-themed read for October, and that is The Dead House by Dawn Cuddigish. Again, I'm not even sure if this is in a haul yet. I'm so confused with my hauls. I think I ordered this wanting it to be here for a haul in October, and it didn't arrive, but I wanted to read it in October. I've heard so much about this book, and it's definitely one for October. It's really creepy. It messes with your mind. Like, I've got to the end of this book, and I still don't know if some things were real or not, if the whole thing was just... I don't know. I don't know if Carly and Caitlin really existed, if they really were two souls in one body, or if they were the result of a mental disorder. I don't know. I legit don't know. It's definitely a good one for October. It's sort of told in diary entries and transcribed camera footage, which definitely makes it interesting. But like some of the camera footage, I just don't know why it was sort of there, because I was like, I can't make anything out of this. I legit can't. It was good, and it really did mess with my mind, but I don't know if I loved it. I wanted to love it, but I didn't come away from that thinking that was like my favourite book. So yeah, I was really torn with a rating on this one. I'm really unsure. It's sort of between half marks, 2.5 out of 5 to 3 stars, because I did like it, but I didn't love it enough that the hype led me to believe that I would. I think that was sort of half the issues with that, but still really enjoyed it. Would recommend it for October, but it can seriously mess with your mind. And the last book that I read in October was Simply Irresistible by Jill Shelvis. I picked this up because when I met Eleanor from Eleanor Reads Books at the Walker event in October, she told me that she was reading Jill Shelvis's books and that she loved them, and because I like sort of contemporary adult romance books, she thought that I would really like her. So I picked up the first book in the Lucky Harbour series, and I really, really enjoyed it. It's so funny. It's about 3 sisters who are sort of brought together by the death of their mother. They've been left this sort of dilapidated inn, and they're all completely different personalities. You have the mouse, the wild child, and the steel magnolia. They're all completely different, but this inn kind of brings them together, and there is a romance element, and there's going to be basically a book for each sister. Really, really enjoyed it. It was so fun. So I sort of give it 3 to 3.5 out of 5 stars. Really enjoyed it, and will definitely be picking up the other books in that series, hopefully sometime soon, but we shall see. So that's everything that I read in October, guys. Have you read any of these books? Let me know in the comments down below. I always love to know. What did you read that was Halloween themed in October? What were your sort of October reads? I would really, really like to know. So thanks so much for watching, guys, and I'll see you all soon. Happy reading.